gut-brain axis?
It's basically this connection between the gut and brain that happens primarily through the vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve in the body, and it's part of the parasympathetic nervous system. And it's actually quite fascinating because the vagus is divided into two branches. One is called the ventral vagus, and the other one is the dorsal vagal pathway. The ventral vagal pathway innervates the lungs and the heart and controls things like what happens when you breathe in. When you breathe in, your heart rate speeds up. When you breathe out, your heart rate slows down. That's called respiratory sinus arrhythmia. That's being controlled by your vagus nerve. So that's the direct connection between the breath and the heart rate, but also the breath and control of the vagus. Then you have the dorsal vagus, which is the more reptilian, ancient part of the vagus. It's connected to the brainstem, and it's a very slow fiber, so it's actually not myelinated, so it's not insulated, and that signals down to the gut. So the dorsal vagus is connected with kind of like what reptiles do if they're under attack, they'll play dead. So the dorsal vagus is involved with this reflex of just disconnecting. When the dorsal vagus is activated, a person can feel depressed, they can feel withdrawn, they don't want to get out of bed. When you're in ventral vagal, you're in this parasympathetic state where your body feels safe. So it's very important to understand the differences between the two, and the gut is the connection between the vagus and the brain because more nerve fibers are pointing up from the gut to the brain via the vagus nerve. About 80% of those fibers are actually sending signals up to the brain, and 20% are sending signals back to the gut. Now, both directions are important, so it's a bi-communication superhighway. But obviously, there's greater influence coming from the periphery up to the brain. And there's different ways. So the bacteria in the gut are producing neurotransmitters like serotonin. The serotonin produced in the gut stimulates serotonin receptors in the nerve endings of the vagus that are all around the gut lining, and then sends signals up to the brain. But the gut, when we're talking about the gut-brain axis, there's also a humoral connection. So the gut microbiome is producing all sorts of postbiotic products. So we know that probiotics, they're healthy bacteria that support health. These bacteria produce postbiotics, so they're products of their metabolism, and those get absorbed into the circulation, and some of those have a very positive influence on our brain health, like memory and learning. So that goes through the bloodstream. And then some of them are producing, we're also getting hormones produced by the gut, like the enteroendocrine cells. They're almost like the second biggest endocrine organ, even though it's not concentrated in one spot. They're spread out throughout the entire gut, and they produce all types of bioactive peptides and signals that affect things like hunger, satiety, all of that stuff.
How can you specifically choose one vagus or the other vagus to work on?
How are you going to activate your ventral vagus?
Ventral. So ventral, and what's the other one?
Dorsal vagus.
Dorsal. And
so
dorsal is the
normally,
primal one.
Dorsal is the primitive one.
Yeah.
Ventral is the part of the vagus that actually evolved in mammals.
Listen to the full episode with the Gut Health Whisperer, Dr. Vincent Pedre, wherever podcasts are streamed.